Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 14th Foundation Day program of IISER Kolkata. This is the first time that we are having to do this program virtually because welcome everyone and welcome to this virtual 14th Foundation Day program of IISER Kolkata. The first time that we are doing this event virtually, of course, because of the pandemic, but we hope that members of the IISER Kolkata family, past and present, and maybe future, would be able to join us online for this program today. So we will be broadcasting the program live through YouTube, and anyone who wants to ask questions to the speaker, please use the live chat box. We will be noting your questions, and at the end of a talk, we will ask your questions to the speaker with your names. So please feel free to participate because she is looking forward to interacting with everyone, especially our students. So we hope that we are going to have a very fruitful, interactive, interesting session with us. Before we begin the Foundation Day lecture, I would invite Professor Saurabh Pal, the Director of IISER Kolkata, to begin the proceedings with a brief introduction to IISER Kolkata and a welcome message. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Bhadra, for your introduction and welcome to the audience. It's a unique situation where we are doing the foundation online. I think this is the first time that we are doing this experiment during the pandemic. And I'm very thankful to Dr. Ulrike Abrecht for joining us today during this pleasant ceremony as a chief guest. So she will be giving talk, and she's of course connecting from Germany. So it's a great pleasure. Let me welcome you to the function first. Let me, of course, say to all my colleagues at IISER Kolkata and those who are even watching this event outside that this is being broadcast live on YouTube. So you can connect to the YouTube and from the Facebook. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to connect to not only people from within IISER Kolkata, but also from outside. The Foundation Day is a very pleasant ceremony, and I must say that the IISER Kolkata is now has completed its 14th years. We are calling it, of course, 14th Foundation Day because we started from the 2007, counting the number of Foundation Day. So we have actually completed 14 years because we started in 2006, sometime in the end of July and the beginning of August, classes started, and we had a long journey in terms of development. We had a very long journey. We have come a long way, yet in a very short time span. So I'm very happy to say that, as you will see, how IISER Kolkata has traveled a distance from a very small institution in a small place outside Kolkata to now a sprawling campus with an aspiration which is very high. So I'm very happy on that note to share first about IISER Kolkata before I introduced the speaker. We also have certain honors to do today. All the Foundation Day, we always applaud our staff, some of the staff who are non-faculty staff, and for Dr. Abrecht's knowledge, every year we have been giving a few staff who do creditably in the last 1 year. So this year also we will do the honor. However, it will not be done physically. So I will only put their names and the photographs, and they will be given their honor separately. With this, let me start my presentation. So let me first share the screen. Is it being seen? The screen, is it being seen? Not yet. It's already there in the screen, right? Yeah, that's okay. But the screen is coming. All right. So today, of course, the 26th of August, 2020, I must remind all of us that we normally celebrate it in August, but we do not celebrate exactly on the day it was founded. So when we are saying it was founded in the beginning of August 2006, of course, we do not celebrate always in the beginning of August or exact day, but we try to do sometime in August. So I must tell you that today, 26th of August, we are celebrating, and the full name of the institute, of course, for Dr. Albrecht's knowledge, the Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, Kolkata, the exact place is Mohanpur in West Bengal in India. So this is, of course, our administrative building where many of us are located, including myself, and there are certain academic places here also. So this is the campus of the IISER Kolkata. For all those who are seeing, all of us know how we have traveled, and this is a bird's eye view of the campus, where all buildings in the very first phase of the construction have already been made. I'm happy to say that we have started from a very small place in Kolkata city, which was basically Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur Extension Center in 2006, with a very small number of students, 140, 19 faculties, a lab space of only 420 square meter. And today, of course, you will see where we have come. So we started from there in 2006, then we went to a transit campus in Mohanpur, in different buildings, as you can see here, with students, number of students growing up to 645, faculty 77, and we stayed there up to 2013 with a lab space of only 2,000 square meters. And of course, during that time, the permanent campus where we are now located, construction of the permanent campus started in various prefab structures. As you can see, the main research complex in the old days when the building started, our lecture hall complex, the hostels, between 2011 and 12. By the time 2013, our hostel was built. Our labs were built in 2015 to 18. What is good, of course, you will see that by 2018, we have grown to lab space or an office space of 57,000 square meter, in addition to several residential space, which all adds up to about 117,000 square meter today. Number of students grew up to 1,430. The faculty by 2018 was already 112. And we have been doing very active research that I will show you. Today, the IISER Kolkata is a sprawling campus. I already showed this building. There's a nice school. And of course, there are several nice greeneries that the campus boasts of. We have several buildings, as you can see, including sports complex, the hostels, the students' activity center, the staff housing, the faculty housing. So I think it's a campus where one can stay and do research. Let me first say the structure of the IISER Kolkata. We have 5 departments which are running the academic programs, and I will tell you what are the academic programs. We have the 5 departments which are biological sciences, chemical sciences, art sciences, mathematical sciences, and physical sciences. And we have 2 new departments called humanities and social sciences and computer sciences, and which includes data science as well. Although we do not plan yet to start undergraduate programs there, but this can happen in future. We also have 4 important interdisciplinary centers of research, which cuts across different departments. Center of Excellence in Space Sciences, which is a center by the Government of India, Center of Advanced Functional Materials, National Center for High Pressure Studies, and Center for Climate and Environmental Studies. The degrees that we give are undergraduate degrees, which are BSMS. Again, these are all under discussion. We can, of course, change it. It's a 5 years degree, and the entry is just after this high school. So it's a class 12 is where we enter, and they get a degree of BS as well as MS. We also have an integrated PhD program where the students enter after the Bachelor's of Science and they continue up to PhD, continue their PhD. There are certain cases where they can exit with a master's degree. We have specific 2 years master's program only in space physics. But again, we are planning to start 2 years master's programs in different areas. And there are procedures by which you can do that. I think that may happen in future as well. We have, of course, the normal PhD, and where you enter after master's. Typically, it takes 5 years, but of course, there is no time limit that we can set for PhD exactly. It can even end in 4 years. In some cases, it can go up 6 years. But typically, we expect that the PhD should be completed within 5 years. Today, IISER Kolkata at a glance, 201 acres, I told you. Total built up is 117,000 square meter, out of which the research and teaching lab as well as office space is 57,000 square meter. Number of students are about 1430, 1450, because this number keeps on varying, because right now many of them are not in the campus and the first year students are to be admitted. So I'm kind of assuming about 200 students admission for the first year when I put the number. Number of faculty is now 128. As you could see, even from 2018 when it was 112, in 2 years we have added 16 faculties in different departments. Total publications are about 3,000 in very high, journals, high peer-reviewed journals, and total citations are extremely high now, is about 36,000 in this short period. Of course, these are growing very fast. So I hope that we will have very good facilities. With the good facilities, we will do even better. We have, of course, built several facilities in our campus. So it's a state-of-the-art in terms of research that we have been able to do. We have several visiting professors, an honorary professor, Professor Somnath Dasgupta, who was actually a regular professor here, is currently visiting professor in art science. Then we have Paul Chirik. These are adjunct faculties. Paul Chirik from the chemical sciences, and many of them are in the very high editorial boards of various journals. For example, Paul Chirik. Then we have Satyajit Adhikari from Indian Association, Amitabh Chattopadhyay from Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, Anindya Sinha from, again, Biological Sciences, Samit Chattopadhyay also from Biological Sciences, Sumit Bhaduri in Chemical Sciences, Ashima Mukhopadhyay in Biological Sciences, James Jackson, Daniel Stack, Dr. T. Ramasamy, Herbert Roeski, Dr. S. Ram, George Sath, they're all, many of them are chemists, Christopher Cummins, they're all chemists, whom I'm showing here. And of course, this is a very important part of our institute that will grow. We want to have more honorary and visiting professors. Very quickly, I want to show that we have done good things. Many of our students have been awarded, and I don't want to read them, but they have been given international awards. They have also been placed in several good institutions of repute. Some of them have got jobs within Indian institutions and gone for postdoc abroad. As I just now showed, some of them have been placed at the IITs, the famous IITs in India. These are very quick snapshot. I don't want to again go into the details of the research areas in biological sciences, chemical sciences, art sciences, mathematics and statistics, as well as physical sciences. And we cut across theory, experiment, and of course, many topics which are basically interdisciplinary. And I think that is very, very important for us, because one of the reasons IISERs were set up was to foster interdisciplinary research, was to integrate research with the undergraduate education. So that was a very important motto with which IISER Kolkata was set up, and all the IISERs were set up. The projects that were submitted, this is just a general grant. I mean, it is a little bit outdated side. I think the numbers are increasing, but this is up to 2019 that we have rupees. We have conducted several projects of national importance. I must say the LIGO India project, Aditya L1 space mission, arsenic contamination, epidemic diseases, drug delivery, cancer, biodiversity, urban ecology. We also have our faculties who have spun off companies. This is, of course, very good, because being an academic institution, it takes time. But as you can see, there are certain companies which have been started by our faculties, which are actually doing very important products. We also have certain industrial R&D, research and development through Invictus Oncology and the Chatterjee Group Life Sciences. I'm very happy to say that very recently, in last 2 years back, we also incubated an innovation company called RISE Foundation. I said it's a Section 8 company. So this is basically to promote startups. So all that you saw, I think many of them is going to come within the RISE Foundation. So the idea of the RISE Foundation is, of course, to promote innovation and research and scientific entrepreneurship. I don't want to go into much of the details, but I have already covered up the green space. I want to only tell that our students are also very active in doing outreach of science. So some of them have been listed here. They go to the nearby schools and colleges, and our students also look at education to the underprivileged children in the neighborhood of the campus, and in various ways we run science popularization programs. We have specific programs also of outreach in the northeastern parts of India, and I think it's very important that we actually look at this as a great opportunity where we are staying. This is a little bit old, but we started a very important program called Leadership for the Academicians program in the where there's a 2 weeks in India and 1 week abroad. The last program that was completed, we did with the Harvard University, but we are going to do a second program with the Singapore, and I think that Indian part is already completed, and because of lockdown, the foreign part is still not completed. So this is basically to train a few leaders to become the next generation leaders, a few sub-leaders who are in the fringe of being a leader, so that they can become the leaders of the next generation. So I just want to quickly say that we have moved up quite fast. There is a very important ranking that all of us know, National Institute Ranking Framework, and in that we have been ranked 25 in 2018, and which was the top among all ICERs, and this particular year in 2020, we are ranked 29, which is still quite good, but the second best among the ICERs. ICER Pune is above us in this year ranking. However, as per the Nature Index ranking, which is a very specific journal collection by the Nature group, as of June 2020, ICER Kolkata ranks the best among all ICERs and fifth among all academic institutions in the country, which is quite a lot because many of the leading academic institutions which have come 50 years, 30, 40, 50 years before us are actually below us. So I'm very happy to say that we have been fifth among all academic institutions in the country. It's a very proud moment for all of us. We have produced research with publications in the best journals of the world, working on solutions to the problems of societal relevance, produced students who are now placed in the best institutions of the world. Our faculty have won national and international laurels based on the research activities, and I must congratulate all our staff, faculty, and students for the growth of ICER Kolkata. Thank you very much. With this, I would now honor as I said, we normally honor a few staff, non-teaching staff. This time, we are of course not able to do physically. The chief guest normally does the honor. So what I'm going to do is to read out the names of the persons whom we are honoring in the next slide, and we will actually give them the honor later. So we applaud Sanjay Bhaumik, who is working in the stores and purchase, Nitin Mal, who is also an office assistant in the research and development, Rana Bhadra, who has done a lot of work in the computer center, particularly writing the codes for managing the academic programs, the technical officer in the center for our computer center. Then Sudhanshu Maiti is a lab assistant in biological sciences. Pradeep Chandra Dhara, he's also an office assistant in the library. Shoman Maiti is a lab assistant in the chemical science. And Abir Banerjee, who is an office assistant in the administration. Let me congratulate all 7 of them, and I applaud, and we will certainly give them the honor at a suitable time. So congratulations to them, and thank you again. I expect all of us to rise above all personal interests and work always for the institution. With that, I think I will complete my presentation, and I will invite now our chief guest, Dr. Ulbricht, to address us. So let me try to see. So I can stop my share, right? All right, so yeah, so she can come into it. So let me now introduce very briefly Dr. Ulrike Abrecht. I'm very happy that we have been able to get her. She is a consultant in the Global Research Corporation and International Strategies in Mainz, Germany. She is a member of the Global Young Academy Advisory Board From 2001 until 2018, she was the head of the Department of Strategic Planning and External Relations at the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation in Bonn. I must say that Alexander von Humboldt Foundation is a very well-known foundation in this country. As you know, so many Indian connections. I said I was an Alexander von Humboldt Fellow a long time, and of course there are many in this institute who are connected to the von Humboldt Fellowship, and many of our students aspire to get that fellowship. So I'm very happy that he had been the head of the Department for Strategic Planning and External Relations at the AVH. She is a PhD in history in 1993 from the University of Göttingen, Germany. From 81 to 1993, she was an assistant professor at the Institute of Economic and Social History in the University of Göttingen, Germany. Of course, Göttingen is very famous to all of us. It was a nucleus of science in Germany. 1993 to 1996, she was the director of the Public Relations Office. And 1997, she was the executive director of the Conference of the German Academies of Science and Humanities in Mainz. 1997 to 2001, I'm very pleased to say she was the head of the Department of the Strategic Planning and Research at the University of Heidelberg. I said, Madam, very pleased to say, because I had spent a lot of time in the University of Heidelberg. In fact, that is where I did my Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship way back in 1987.
Oh, great.
88. So I'm very happy to welcome you. Among other positions, she was a member and chair of the External Advisory Group for the Human Resources of the European Commission, a member and chair of the University Council of the University of Heidelberg, a member of various advisory boards, Heidelberg, Tübingen, New Europe College, Bucharest, and the Global Young Academy. I think with all your experience, it will be wonderful to listen to you today about international collaborations that you perceive from Germany. Dr. Ulrike Albrecht.
So thank you very much, Professor Paul.
So,
I try to...
Yeah, so she
Okay. Oh, I need the... I need... Sorry for that. So, all said, sorry for this interruption. So, thank you very much, Professor Paul, for your kind words. And I must say I'm deeply impressed by your presentation on the really fast development of ISER called Qatar. I would have liked so much to see the campus, but unfortunately, due to the disruptive times, I couldn't attend the meeting planned for June. I have to say, I'm so deeply impressed. I really have to say happy birthday to ISER, to the 14th anniversary. And maybe next year it's possible to travel. As you said, Professor Paul, indeed, I've been with the Humboldt Foundation for now something like 20 years, and it was really a wonderful experience. And so I'm still very, very interested in supporting international cooperation and try to push that even more forward. To give you an impression, because we are all so far away, to give you an impression, especially all the new students whom I'm really saying hello and welcome you. I'm sitting around 10 meters apart from the Rhine River in Mainz, and it's kind of grayish outside and only 22 degrees centigrade. I heard that it's much warmer in Kolkata. I will push a little cool air to Kolkata, I promise. I would like now to give you some insights into international studies and research cooperation, and really from a German perspective. But as you said, Professor Paul, Germany and in India are so closely connected, and there are so many cooperations, also individual cooperations, that it might be very interesting for you to see the German perspective as well. So I would like to start with a little outline of my presentation, so you know what will expect you. After a short introduction of what does internationalization of teaching and research mean for German universities and non-university research organization, I think it's very important to say something about the enormous meaning internalization has for research, and has always been for research, but also for the institutions in Germany. I would like to also tell you something about the German research landscape, which is very diverse. And some of the institutions were already mentioned, like the University of Göttingen, University of Heidelberg. Also, I would like to say something about the funding opportunities, and I will give you some links to the websites of those funding organizations, because they might be interesting for you. I will talk about universities in Germany and international cooperations, and I think it's very interesting to see, unless you have experiences yourself, to see the outside perspective on Germany, because the Humboldt Foundation is so close to the alumni that they always ask them, what are your experiences, and what can we learn from you? And I can't avoid talking about the internationality in times of the pandemic, because it is for all of us so incredibly disruptive that we really, and maybe there are some challenges and also opportunities to look at. So I really would like to say a few words to that point as well. Some really rough facts and figures in order to have a sort of impression on what the situation is like in Germany. Internationalization of higher education has become a strategic goal and an objective for governments and universities in Germany. And I always have to remind you, we have one federal government, but we also have 16 states called the Länder who have a word in all these discussions and, of course, decisions as well. Today, the grade of internalization is, among other things, a measure for the quality of universities, and includes teaching as well as research collaborations and staff exchange. Internalization also has an important aspect of cultural and multilingual experiences. Dealing with the German perspective on internalization, I would like to introduce you to some of these facts. First of all, there are around, and that's a rough figure, 1,000 publicly funded research institutions in Germany. So that is very complex and very diverse, but there is a division of labor and tasks. Around 100 billion euros each year, especially in 2019. We don't really know what kind of... So as you can see, it's a very, very diverse situation in Germany concerning the conclusions. Apart from universities, there are non-university research institutions like the Max Planck Society. You will have heard of the Max Planck Society, but also Fraunhofer, which is a little more sort of applied oriented. The Helmholtz Association, of German research centers and also the Leibniz scientific community known as the Leibniz Association. I said something about the cooperation of the Länder and the government, the federal government, as well as the universities. They have their organizations, the Hochschulrektoren, the Rectors Conference, and they all talking about the strategy goals. And one of the strategy goal was also the high-tech strategy, and this is now prolonged until 2025. An enormous amount of money will be there for supporting the high-tech strategy. And what are the objectives? It's a very important goal to have a sort of national cross-departmental strategy and also the interdisciplinary strategy. It stands for internalization and the aim of moving Germany forward on its way to becoming a worldwide innovation leader. We have, of course, also India competitors, but also collaborators. I wouldn't say it's just a competition, it's also a very good collaboration. The goal is for good ideas to be translated quickly into innovative products and services. They strengthen Germany's position as an industrial and exporting nation, and they make it possible to find creative answers to the urgent challenges of our time, including challenges in such areas as sustainable urban development, water supply, environmentally friendly energy, individualizing medicine, and the digital society, and many more. A new concept of innovation includes not only technological innovation, but also social innovation, and that includes society as a central player and your new direction, or even creating new units and including humanities and social sciences is exactly the way and direction we want to go as well. Universities, and that will interest you a lot. We have quite a few institutes for higher education in Germany, around 400, and 160 are only authorized to confer doctorates. We have almost 30,000, 28,000 international doctoral candidates enrolled in Germany at the moment. And the principle is and has been since the 19th century, and you might have heard not only of Alexander von Humboldt but also of Wilhelm von Humboldt. They really stood for the introduction of the principle of uniting learning, instructions, and research, and that is still the main principle for German universities. We had a very interesting competition that started a couple of years ago, almost a decade ago, and that was the excellence strategy. The excellence strategy is now supported and funded with around 440 million euro each year for cutting-edge research. As 20 years ago, maybe the German universities were all meant to be on the same level and were very open. We realized that a lot of things had to be changed at universities, internationalized at universities, and also the competition was introduced for 15 or 10 years ago, the excellence strategy, because we wanted to push the universities to get better, and the competition was obviously very, very successful. So I think we now have 11, no, I don't think, I know we now have 11 excellence universities who really try very, very hard to get better, and now it's a really sort of quality proof situation that these 11 universities, among them Heidelberg, Berlin, Munich, Bonn, and etc., they are now meant to be the best universities in Germany. The Higher Education Pact 2020 is the result of a long-lasting discussion on the need for the improvement of teaching at a German university. I think we kind of neglected teaching for the favor of good research for a while, and we had what we, at least in the 80s, called a mass university. That means we had a lot of students and not enough teaching staff and researchers to deal with these students and to care for the students. So I think it was a very, very good movement and initiative to improve higher education. And that started also 10 years ago or even earlier. We now have a pact which is called Higher Education Pact that started 2016 and will be prolonged until 2023 because we needed several adjustments. First of all, we needed more support for the students. That was the most important thing, but also we needed an adjustment to international degrees, and now we have bachelor and master degrees, which was not the case around 10 years ago. And so to internationalize without those international degrees wouldn't have made any sense. So we are on a good track, I think. And we wanted to have a sort of future contract strengthening study and teaching, which means that still the universities are supported to improve the situation. I now want to switch to funding institutions because that might be very interesting for you as well. We have a very diverse funding situation, not only that we have an enormous amount of public funding for research and teaching and institutes for higher education, but we also have privately funded foundations who have programs, and they support international exchange as well, like the Volkswagen Stiftung, the Fritz-Thyssen-Stiftung, and the Stifterverband, which is the organization that includes all the funding organizations of industry. So that is a very, very I think impressive activity from industry, and they are in a way more flexible to invent and introduce new programs. The somewhat slower organizations are the as we call it, the big tanks, like the DAD, I think you call them. The DAD is the German Academic Exchange Service, and that's a big, big institution. And of course, that's so huge that they sometimes need a little bit more time to adjust to the needs of students and researchers. But I really want to point out that especially the DAD, also the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, the German Research Council, and the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, they are publicly funded. They don't have any endowment, so they are publicly funded and mostly steered and supported by the Foreign Ministry of Germany. They are the institutions that are the instruments of foreign policy and science diplomacy to support internalization. And both of them, the DAD and the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, started that in 1953, very, very shortly after the Second World War, in order to internationalize Germany again and invite foreign researchers again after this disastrous time in the so-called Third Reich. The DAD, the DAD, and the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation have different programs to support also individuals from abroad, researchers and students, to come to Germany for a limited time and do here this and study here and also do research. here are, and that will interest you, are the main links, and you will find many more links, especially on the fourth line, the research in Germany. And there's another one which I really would like to add. It's the study in Germany DE, studyingermany.de. There are a lot of further addresses which might interest you, and they tell you a lot about the situation at German universities, the rules, how to get to Germany, how to stay here, and all the other information you need also on universities and so on and so forth. I will start, I would like to introduce you to those two international organizations, funding organizations in Germany. And I would like to start with the German Academic Exchange Service. The German Academic Exchange Service is an organization that brings students to Germany, that promotes international exchange of students and scholars. It's a huge organization, as I said already. In 2018, they funded 145,000 scholars to come to Germany or have an exchange with another country or with some other countries. They also support universities abroad, and so this is a really wonderful instrument to support internationalization. They have a sum of around 600 million each year to support those activities, which is really an enormous amount of money. They support and fund scholarship and grants for all disciplines. That's also very, very important, and at all stages, although I must say there's a little competition between the DAD and the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, because they don't have these programs for long stays in Germany for postdocs and experienced researchers. So they invite researchers to Germany, but only for a short stay. Another important information is that the DAD has 72 offices worldwide. 2 of them are in India, and that's a wonderful cooperation we have together with them, because they have the knowledge about the countries, and that is very, very precious to us. The DAD provides scholarship and grants, as I said, provides information and counseling about the German higher education system and studying and research in Germany. It supports the internationalization of German universities, and last but not least, promotes German language and German studies abroad. The DAD's budget is almost spent on the mobility, almost all spent on mobility of students and scholars. It's the world's largest academic exchange organization. It's meant to support scholarships for the best. It's also the quality aspect. It also provides for structures for internalization and has the expertise for academic collaboration. As I said, it has been founded, we founded in 2053, but the first DAD was founded in 1925. The Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, that is the campus of the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation with a wonderful garden. Around 110 scholars were funded in 2018, with around 140 million in 2018. That's around and roughly the budget in 2020 as well. We are very proud, and I still say we, because I still feel very close to the Humboldt Foundation, have around 30,000 Humboldtians, as we call them, worldwide. This is a wonderful network. And 111 alumni association in 75 countries guarantee that we are always very close to our alumni as well, and there are several alumni programs who provide for the possibility and opportunity to always come back and meet your hosts again in Germany, or invite your hosts and colleagues to your country as well, which is a very attractive instrument. Throughout the intensive contact to the Humboldtians, we learned a lot from them about their experiences in Germany and also the needs for researchers. So we always have to adjust our programs. For instance, we observed many years ago that German universities were not really prepared to deal with all the challenges for young students as well as for researchers from abroad, to deal with complicated matters like housing, languages, bureaucracy, childcare, etc. So we started a competition program for them to establish so-called welcome centers to help students and researchers in their first phase at a German university. Around 20 universities had been rewarded for their good concepts to have welcome centers, but now it's the role model for almost every university in Germany. So that improved the situation a lot, and now we hope that new students who come to Germany and also the researchers feel welcomed. Another important program, and that has started around since 10 years ago, is the Philip Schwartz Initiative. And we saw 10 years ago the huge group of people coming to Europe, coming to Germany, and among them so many researchers who weren't able to work in their countries anymore. That made us to think of a program, and me and my deputy really fought hard for that. And we now have a program for scholars at risk to help scholars at risk for an extended time to come to Germany and have a safe haven and follow up with their research in Germany. We now are also part of a wonderful network, an international network dealing with the situation of scholars at risk. Here you can see the map and the impressive numbers of all the alumni all over the world. And as we are supporting postdocs and very experienced researchers and outstanding researchers, the numbers might be not so high, but it's an impressive number of high-level and outstanding researchers still cooperating with Germany, and out of them 55 Nobel laureates. And we are very proud that we discovered most of them before they received the Nobel Prize. That is, I think, a very good sign that the selection in the Humboldt Foundation works very well. It also shows that Europe is still a big part of the funded group, but followed by Asia with 5,750 and followed by North America, a smaller group, and there are special programs for developing and threshold countries, a smaller group from Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle and South America, and also Australia and New Zealand and Oceania. You can see, and of course the map shows it, that it's also a very, very good network for the cooperation, not only on the scientific level, but also on the diplomatic level, to cooperate with other countries. And every time the foreign minister, for instance, goes abroad, for instance, to India, and the chancellor, they ask us, are there wonderful scientists in the specific country whom we can meet, and so we always suggest people to meet for instance, in India, and that's always a wonderful possibility to make use of the wonderful activities of the Humboldt Foundation and the network. I now want to tell you something about the outside perspective from the guests and the researchers who stayed in Germany for a while. Internalization is very often connected with physical mobility. Going to another country means getting confronted with a new environment, different societal and political conditions, different conditions for research, also different people, food, language, accommodation, etc. The Humboldt Foundation asked their alumni about their experiences and their impressions during the stay in Germany. What the alumni think of Germany, one can find in one of our latest edition of the AVH magazine, The Cosmos, and you will find that on the website of the Humboldt Foundation as well. It's very, very interesting to read. You can see what kind of prejudices and assessments after the stay are there. Although the study emphasizes that it depends on where you come from, because you always have different backgrounds, of course. For most of the guests or researchers, we heard that they had a positive impression concerning the open atmosphere, the friendliness, and the good research opportunity and conditions in Germany. Of course, there are other stories, because we also have, and I don't want to neglect it, that we also have different political situations at the moment where some people have xenophobia, and that is a problem we constantly deal with and try to deal with. Also, we are criticized for being sometimes too bureaucratic and sometimes too hierarchical in the institutions. We are also working on that, obviously, but when you can see how, on the scale, how deep the negative attitude was towards that, it's not as bad as we might have expected that. And there is room for improvement, and actually right now in the situation of getting even more international, we know that we do have to do something about it. And I just attended an evaluation of 10 universities in Germany, excellence universities, and one of the main topics was, how can we change the situation? How can we be less hierarchical, and how can we avoid too much bureaucracy? A few words on language, because that of course makes it also for India a little more challenging to come to Germany, not going to Great Britain or the US or Australia. Many universities in Germany nowadays offer lectures in English, and an increasing number of courses are in English, and also the degrees can be made in English. The Humboldt Foundation, though, and also the DAD, offers German language courses as well. So you can always, and many times in the lab, the language is of course in English. But besides, you are not only asked for it, but you are also supported to learn German, because when you stay in Germany, it's quite nice to buy a bread maybe in German, or listen to what sometimes your children say, because they are the ones who learn the language very quickly. So don't be afraid of the language issue, because I think the German universities are very well aware of the fact that English is the common language, and so I think they are very well prepared for that. When it comes to India, I saw that, you see it on the tables, obviously the interest from the Indian side is very, very high, and you, Professor Paul, already mentioned it, is very high to come to Germany and to cooperate with Germany. And it's maybe not very surprising that on top of the table you see China and you see India, and I'm very happy about that. The strange thing might be Italy, but there's a explanation for that, because Italy has a very sort of fragile research situation and has had it for a long time. It was not the main political target to support research, unfortunately. And so many of the very good researchers and also the staff members came to a country which is known as a very good research situation and very good research location. And of course, it's not so far away from Germany. So the locations to go for Italian researchers is Austria, Switzerland, and Germany, sometimes also France. So it's not surprising at all that Italy is first, but of course China and India are the countries that are is the biggest group for foreign academic staff and German higher education institutions. And when you go to the right side of the tables, you see the number of professors. There's a lot of room for improvement because only 38 professors come from India at the moment. But I have to say there's also a lot of room for improvement concerning the general number of professors from abroad in Germany. It's only 7%. And when you compare that, for instance, with the US, in the US there are 25% of professors from abroad. And that has been, I told you about the evaluation, that has been one of the main topics. How can we improve the situation and how can we invite and be more attractive for researchers from abroad to stay not only for a longer time, but to stay for good. And that would be nice to invite even more also from India. Here you can see the number of foreign students in 2019, that is the 20 countries that are mainly represented in Germany. And here you can see India is second after China. So that also shows that the interest in Germany on the part of India is really high. And hopefully it also shows that the Indian students feel all right and feel at home in Germany and in German institutions. I now switch to the topic we all have to talk about, and it's definitely really a very, very challenging time in India as well. We have different situations in the countries, but we all fight the very, very difficult situation caused by COVID-19. At the moment, we are facing an extraordinary situation, and in times of the pandemic, the model of face-to-face meetings and international meetings in person does not really work. International educational exchanges and scientific mobility are going to look different after COVID, whenever that will be. Scientific associations are already thinking about hybrid meetings, and also the Global Young Academy does that already, and you do that at the moment. And after a while, then also combine, if that is possible, physical meetings and virtual elements. Maybe that can be more inclusive for those who cannot travel. Hybrid models that might be a good idea, including for mobility, will possibly mean considering value trade-offs. For example, inclusion versus trust building through face-to-face interaction, but still it will be a challenge, and I hope sincerely that we will not be just reduced to the internet and video conferences. It's a very, very good replacement, as we learn just now. But on the other hand, I'm still a big supporter of face-to-face meetings because it really is a matter of building up trust. Both of the organizations that are operating internationally, the Humboldt Foundation and the DAAD, they provide for possibilities, opportunities. Meanwhile, they closely cooperating with the Foreign Ministry. You will find also a lot of explanations on what the situation is like and what the possibilities are to either come to Germany or to take part in courses at the universities. So please, when you are interested in cooperating and learn more about the German universities and cooperating with the universities, you should look into those websites and also into the websites of the universities. A wonderful idea, I think, from the Humboldt Foundation was because they have this wonderful network of outstanding researchers. They started YouTube interviews, and you will see also on the website of the Humboldt Foundation the link to the YouTube interviews. And all these interviews deal with the different perspectives, also from the scientific point of view, not only from the natural sciences, but also from social sciences and from the humanities. And I think this is at least very inspiring, sometimes also a little optimistic that so many researchers on the world are cooperating with each other and maybe find a way out. The DAAD also continues to follow the developments on the coronavirus and is very, very helpful in pointing out what is possible and what isn't possible at the moment. You will find a special website on the coronavirus situation at the moment, but they are trying very, very hard that the pandemic is not too disruptive for international cooperation, and this will not be the end, but a new phase of internationality, and I think they are doing very well. I now come to a sort of conclusion and again wanted to reiterate what internationalization could mean for us, and also especially for our higher education. It has become, as I said, a strategic goal and objective for governments and universities. And it is definitely a very good measure for the quality of university and includes teaching as well as research collaborations and staff exchange. It has important aspects of cultural and multilingual experiences. We can really learn from each other, and that's very, very important. And it means opening one's mindset to a broader way of thinking. That helps research, of course, as well, and scientific dialogue. And as we become more international and global, we begin to look at issues differently. And of course, that also includes our thinking, as I said some slides ago, our thinking of the time after the pandemic, and also the set of instruments. So I think that is our challenge and maybe our opportunity also to think of even new instruments. A very interesting information for you is, and I mentioned it already, that the DAAD has information points in India, 2 of them, and they are in Mumbai and in Chennai, and those are very, very good contact and information points for any questions on the German research landscape. They also provide for information on Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, on universities, and so on and so forth. They are our partners because the Humboldt Foundation doesn't have offices abroad. That is the best way to get more information, and I think it would be a good suggestion and idea to first of all contact them, because they also have the Indian perspective and they know exactly what you need and what your expectations are. There are new institutions that is a common initiative of the Foreign Ministry, together with all the institutions already mentioned, with the universities and the funding organizations. The initiative is called German House for Research and Innovation, and there are 5 centers all over the world overseen by the German Academic Exchange Service, and one of them is in New Delhi, and that is also a very interesting contact point, because the German House also cooperate with industry, and they you mentioned the startup and incubation situation and your effort to support that part of your university as well, of ISER. So I think that will be a very good contact point to talk about the applied sciences and also the industry side of research and the applied research. So this is the end of my talk, but not the end of my presentation, because I include all sorts of answers to, hopefully, to your questions. I thank you very, very much. I hope I also started with some interest points for you, and I hope, of course, as well, as this is your first week, I reckon, at the university for you students, I hope very much that you feel well and you are successful at the university, and I hope very much to see you in person very soon in Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ulrike. It was very informative, and we already have a set of questions for you. So I think the first one is something that you've already addressed to some extent. Shubham was asking whether knowledge of German language is a prerequisite in German academia, or whether interactions in English are allowed. So I think you've already addressed that question during your talk. He has another question. I'll just read it out. It says, after PhD, you are conferred a title of doctorate, DR, right? So then what is dr.rer.net?
What kind of instrument? I couldn't hear you properly. What kind of instruments we offer for PhD after?
Did you hear the
not
question?
Properly, because you were freezed. Is that what kind of instruments we offer to fund the time after PhD?
No, she's not hearing it. So, okay. He says, what is doctor.rer.net? Shall I type it in the chat box for you?
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. What it means, Dr. Nat, that's a special name for the doctorate in natural sciences. Nat means, it's Latin and means natural sciences. So my doctorate is Dr. Phil and means in humanities.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. There's another question regarding cooperation between countries. Doipa and Roy is asking, can you please share some thoughts on how to formally collaborate for research between, say, ISER and some other German institute? So if somebody wants to start a research collaboration between institutions in India and Germany,
Yeah.
how to start the process.
Yeah. So I think what is key to that, to start cooperations, is that people, researchers, know each other. So on the level of after PhD and on the level of the researchers, it might be easier than students, because students don't have the contact people, of course. But on the level of researchers and PhDs and after PhDs, I think it's a very, very good thing to have individual a collaboration. And then, of course, as the researchers in Germany and also your researchers are affiliated to an institution, that is the best way. For instance, maybe it's always easy to talk about examples. For instance, Heidelberg has a wonderful cooperation for some topics and research on Southeast Asia. They also have a sort of co-institute in New Delhi. And they started off with a collaboration among researchers. First of all, a research group in Heidelberg, and they had partners in New Delhi and other cities in universities in India. And so to have an official cooperation with a university or a technical university, which might be interesting for ISO, then it's a sort of strategic discussion within your university and also the University of Heidelberg. And then they decide on prolonging the list of cooperation partners. The universities in Germany are now very, very careful to just sign a cooperation contract, because in some times 10 years ago, they signed contracts, and then from both sides it didn't really work. And so they are now really, they want that it's a living contract, and that's how it works. And so that's how you could push the idea of collaboration. Does it answer your question?
I guess so. So he also has a related question about funding. He's asking whether non-Germans can apply for project funding from either the DFG or the DAD. He's not really asking about the study fellowships, but for funding.
The DAD is an organization that especially funds individuals, but also you can be part of a research group. So then you might not have your own project, but you can do research and study in Germany when you come from abroad. And that the main program from the DAD is meant to support students from abroad to come to Germany. The Humboldt Foundation is also an organization that only funds researchers from abroad, but after their PhD, to come to Germany. And then, of course, you can have your own project. We also have special programs for research groups. That is the Alexander von Humboldt professorship, but that is a high-ranked program for outstanding researchers. But the normal award and the normal fellowship program is for individuals, but of course you can follow up on your research as well. The DFG, once you are in a German lab, you can, because it's German taxpayers' money, they ask for the research done in Germany. But of course, you can be part of a research group, and once you are in Germany, you can also apply for funding for your research project.
Thank you. I'll ask, there are some other questions I had listed for you. So firstly, a lot of our students who were kind of finishing their masters and looking forward to joining a PhD program, and many of them are right now stranded because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And there would be many students who were planning to go to Germany or to other European countries. And this would have been stuck, and the similar situation for students who were going for postdocs after their PhD, and they're now not able to travel. So would you have some suggestions for such students? For example, I'm sure different universities would have different ways of handling this, but is there a kind of overall understanding of when students would be able to go and join programs, whether if they're not able to join the semester, whether the offer would still remain valid? So these are very common concerns that many of our students are going through, right?
Yeah, I really would like to give the suggestion, because there are a lot of not only ideas but also instruments, and we know that was the main issue for the DAD and as well as for the Humboldt Foundation. And I know, and you see on the websites right away, and you can also contact people in the Humboldt Foundation and DRD and the universities, because that's exactly the main problem for both of the organizations, because all of a sudden people got stuck in Germany as well as they got stuck in abroad. And there are some issues of course, the courses now starting in the universities, but before it was just on the internet, but now the universities, I think they will start in October, maybe a little later in November. Then they have also again face-to-face meetings as well, but very carefully, of course, as the situation doesn't only depend on the organizations and not only on the universities, but also on the rules concerning Europe and Germany. It is very, very important to contact those two web pages, because on both of these websites it starts with COVID-19, so that you really get answers, and there's also questions and answers already provided for. But when you have individual questions, when you got stuck, you really have to contact those two organizations, because they will help, and they will also say frankly when it isn't possible to cooperate now. But I know they have also bridge programs to bridge the phase between now and the situation when it's getting better. They also have rules for prolonging the stipends, the fellowships. But that is really, I think I cannot really answer the question in general, because that is sometimes an individual problem. Not all of the questions are individually, but some of them are. So contact those two web pages, because they tell you a lot. And once you are not happy with the answers there, you can always contact persons, and they will try very hard to answer those questions.
Thank you for the clarification. I'm sure that is going to help our students. I have now a related question, which is a bit speculative. I don't know whether, if you're comfortable answering it. So this is about next year. We of course don't know what's going to happen, when the pandemic is going to come down, so everything is uncertain. But we are dealing with students going through this cycle every year. So right now our outgoing batch students are concerned about their positions for PhDs, but then very soon, this time of the year, we are going to have the next batch which will have similar concerns. And then if the previous batch is stuck, we are not sure whether the fellowships will be opened up, and the cycle will continue. So do you think there is any thought about this in terms of whether, for example, the regular DART fellowship will be again offered as usual at the correct time, even though this year things have been postponed?
Yes, I try to be optimistic. No, I am optimistic, because I trust in all our very, very good researchers. But on the other hand, I also trust in both of these organizations, because they already deal with that. They know exactly that there will be a time lag and sort of a domino effect, as we call it in German, so that you have the next generation will have the same problem, but the other one is waiting. What they did is they haven't finished the openness to applying. So you can still apply to the DAD and to the programs of the DAD and also to the programs of the Humboldt Foundation. So they deal with that, and they know exactly where they have to support people to stay in their respective countries at the moment. And they don't want to sort of stop the possibility to apply. That's exactly what they don't want, and that is exactly what they deal with. They have in mind, and also concerns the funding, the public funding. We don't save the money, and we don't give the money back. It's still there. So there's a pot of money still waiting for the people who couldn't come. I know that they also dealt with the problem that those people, students, researchers, still in their countries have to have a sort of a financial support. That might not be as difficult for the researchers because they sometimes, or very often, are employed. But students have the other problem. So a bit of the solution will be on your side and on the Indian side and the university side as well. But on the other side, the organizations are still there and they deal with that problem. They have solutions.
We have a connected question from Auditory. She's asking, what about the exam requirements for the upcoming year? Because everything is getting delayed. So she's asking, do we need to submit TOEFL scores, GRE scores for the coming year applications? Because, how is that going to be handled?
As the DUD and the Humboldt Foundation knows that, the Humboldt Foundation is, of course, also expecting in normal times a PhD certificate, and the DAD also needs those information in order to assess the qualification of the application. But they know that. They have to have it. They know exactly that the disruptive times led to the fact that it's all delayed. And so when you apply and you had the feeling that you have your certificates at the end of the year and you don't have it now, you can apply and then you deliver your certificate later on. That's exactly what those two organizations deal with.
That's fantastic. I'm going to end with one last question. You showed this beautiful map of the kind of footprint from the different parts of the world for the Humboldt Foundation. So I was wondering that, given that you have people coming in from all over the world and there are very different situations in terms of academic teaching and research in these different countries, when the foundation or even DAD is assessing applications, then are there considerations put in for the kind of background the candidate comes from? Because if everybody is going to be treated at par, then resources would be very, very variable in the developed and the developing. The global south is going to be affected by that.
Yeah.
So is this taken into consideration?
Yeah, wonderful question. Wonderful question. Thank you very much, Nandita, because that is something the Humboldt Foundation and the DAD is confronted with all the time. And I think that for instance, with the Humboldt Foundation, the selection committee that is comprised of all disciplines, not only separated disciplines, but of all disciplines, and also an international selection committee, they have in mind and are very well aware of the different situations and the different backgrounds of certificates. But you are totally right that we always have to adjust the situation. For instance, also dealing with and discussing that with the Global Young Academy, which is also very diverse and has diverse backgrounds, we realized that for instance, the access to publications is a big issue. So finding the correct and very fair assessment, one not only has to be aware of the fact that you cannot maybe publish as much as you want when you are living in sub-Sahara Africa. On the other hand, we have to provide for opportunities and improve the situation. So that's what we do on the political side. On the other side, we now, for the assessment of applications, we now try to always adjust the situation. For instance, what we did all over the world is to also recognize that women researchers have children, and of course the fathers look after the children too, but maybe we cannot work with those time limits in their career. So we offer a special approach to them as well. For instance, during the selection process, we also always remind the peers that they have chosen 90 men already, but not 10 women. So we try very hard to do that. And so what we always do, and that's the issue of the international group of referees, also the peers who are evaluating the applications before, that they have in mind that there are different prerogatives to certificates, not only for researchers, but also to students. And the DAAD, with those 72 contact points in all over the world, is trying very, very hard. I think they are very successful in order to keep that in mind.
Thank you. I think it's a very nice way of trying to be inclusive. I think we should end on that positive note. So thank you, Ulrike, for the wonderful presentation, for taking the time off from your busy schedule to be with us virtually. It's been a pleasure hosting you, and I'm sure you're going to come and visit us sometime in person. Before we close, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the people who've been involved in making this program a success. Firstly and foremost, our entire CCCC, the computer team. Shahid especially has been with us throughout, going through dry runs, setting up everything. And as always, we had some last minute glitches, but the program ran through thanks to their support. Thanks to the support from the Dean of International Research and Outreach Office before the program, support from the entire administration team for running this program. Of course, our director, Professor Pal, for backing us up and being here with us and giving the address and the beginning of the program. And from the side of the students, thanks to the Dean of Students Office, and especially thanks to Ms. Ornita Banerjee, who's been here handling the questions on YouTube, because I couldn't run both. So thank you for everyone who is watching. And I'm sure more people are going to have the opportunity to watch the video on our YouTube channel. It's going to be put up there. So please share the video with your peer group who you think is going to benefit from all the information that Ulrike has shared with us today. Thanks again, Ulrike.
Thank you very much.